Well, it's been another year of E3, and it was, let's go with slim in regards to big announcements? The chaos of 2020 and 2021 hit the games industry hard, causing progress to slow to a glacial crawl, which is also how most of the conferences felt as it happens. If you missed E3 or just chose not to bother with it because you had better things to do than watch that Monster Hunter spin-off be announced for the third time in as many days, you're in luck, because we're going to give you all of the highlights in one convenient video. Also, conveniently, there were only 10 highlights. We're being facetious, don't get too cross. We've sifted through everything that happened at this year's E3 to rank for you the very biggest announcements. We won't be including games that we've already heard plenty about pre-E3, primarily Halo Infinite, Battlefield 2042 or Far Cry 6, but we will look at ones that were briefly announced years prior as long as they showed something significant this time around. We also won't be covering the ones that gave us very little information, such as The Outer Worlds 2, Starfield and Contraband, because they didn't tell us anything and therefore we can't tell you anything either. So with that out of the way, I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are the 10 biggest announcements from E3 2021. Number 10. Forza Horizon 5. We'll admit, racing games aren't really our specialty here at TripleJump. Fortunately, it doesn't take an expert to see that Forza Horizon 5 is bloody beautiful. Just look at those cars doing car things. Wow. Nyom, etc. There's a reason that Forza has been going for so long, and it's not because Microsoft just wants to one-up Sony's Gran Turismo. Alright, it is that, but it's not only that. The Forza team is just really great at making racing games. E3 seems to have a tradition of there being at least one racing game that's given far too much stage time, and it was Forza's turn this year with its admittedly impressive gameplay demo. The game's creative director told us that we were really watching the Forza team playing the game before our eyes, which based on the clearly scripted conversation was about as believable as the acting in a TV infomercial. Undoubtedly, Forza Horizon 5 is a contender for the most visually impressive title of this new generation so far, an impressive feat considering we've only seen it in a compressed stream. The gameplay itself looks, as far as we can tell anyway, exactly the same as most racing games, only this time it's in Mexico and it's also stunning. Did I mention it was pretty? Because good lord is it pretty. Number 9. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Ubisoft's conference was on track to a standard E3 conference, a dull showcase of inconsequential titles with intermittent awkward banter on stage. Then, out of nowhere, the "A Ubisoft Game" tagline appeared and gave fans of Beyond Good and Evil a lovely warm feeling in their special zone. Then it disappointed them deeply by being something a bit more unexpected. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora was revealed with a gorgeous CGI trailer and accompanying score that was quite lovely indeed. There were myriad creative creatures and sublime environments shown off, as well as the usual gangly blue chaps that Avatar is known for. The first look trailer didn't reveal too much else though. According to Ubisoft's website, Frontiers of Pandora will be a first-person action-adventure set in a previously unseen part of the Avatar universe. It will also be open world, so it's just going to be Far Cry Primal in blue paint, isn't it? No, must stay positive. Something you may have forgotten is that this isn't actually Ubisoft's first Avatar game. They did a direct movie tie-in, which by all accounts was thoroughly mediocre. Here's hoping Frontiers of Pandora manages to be memorable for its... Actually, if it's memorable at all, that will be an improvement. Number 8. Somerville. We weren't going to include too many little indie games on this list because they don't really qualify as biggest in the grand scheme of things. However, much like Little Nightmares 2 earlier this year, Somerville may have the potential to compete in the big leagues when it hits the market in 2022. Why? Well, it's from the co-founder of Playdead, the studio behind Limbo and Inside. Quite a lineage. It's not the first we've heard of Somerville either. The game was originally teased with a vague trailer back in 2017, and a second, equally unclear teaser in 2018. You'll be glad to know, it seems like it'll be worth the wait. This year's trailer was sublime. Shown off during the Microsoft conference, Somerville gave a brief introduction to its story alongside a haunting piano score. There was a post-apocalyptic world, aliens, and a tense ending scene that means it may be just too spooky for me. Do hope you enjoy it though. Somerville had a strong resemblance to its forebears, lots of running away from things, presumably with plenty of trial and error. It had that muted, simple art style that somehow manages to be brimming with detail. The bleak and ambiguous world was on full display, this time centering on a whole family. Plus, there was a nice little pooch too. Don't you dare do it! I know what you're planning, you monsters. You keep that good boy safe. Like I said, I'm not ready for this. Number 7. INTELLIVISION AMICO. Though it may have gone a little under the radar due to its place on the E3 schedule, INTELLIVISION's new AMICO console is offering something a bit different. Sort of. According to INTELLIVISION CEO and industry veteran Tommy Tallarico, the AMICO will be a co-op-focused pick-up-and-play motion-controlled console. All of its games will be in some way exclusive to the system. There'll be no tacky monetization like microtransactions or loot boxes, and games will be available both digitally and physically. Sounds pretty nifty so far. The motion controllers have small screens on them and look a bit like an original iPod. They also apparently have wireless charging, so you can just put them back on top whenever you're done. In a moment of humility and honesty unheard of in the modern games industry, Tallarico admitted that they aren't trying to compete technologically in the console market. The AMICO is purely a niche item, a luxury you plug in when your relatives are coming round or when your friends are in the mood for party games. If I'm being honest for a moment too, it does look like the games are a bit simple and might have trouble finding an audience, but I hope I'm wrong, because considering that the Wii is long gone and the Switch isn't really filling that role, it's great to have an easy entry point for new gamers. Number 6. Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Oh, Rabbids, I love those guys. Well, not really, but Mario, I love that guy. Well, even then he's great and all, but I don't really play his games. But put them together in an XCOM-like gameplay experience and it's not my thing, and I confess openly that I don't get it. For the folks who do get it though, congratulations, and I hope you enjoy your very weird sequel. We saw both cinematic and gameplay trailers for Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope a few times throughout this year's E3. The cinematic one showed that Mario has somehow mastered intergalactic travel, and the gameplay one looked like more of the previous game, at least I assume it did. Again, I'm not really the guy who's going to pick up on nuance when it comes to a game about rabbits wearing wigs and shooting each other. By all accounts, Kingdom Battle was a very well polished, enjoyable experience, and it's easy to see why fans are excited. It's also just as easy to see why non-fans are baffled out of their minds, so let's all just shake hands and move along. Number 5. A Plague Tale Requiem. A sequel to the much-loved A Plague Tale Innocence was rumoured to be making an appearance at this year's E3, which very much turned out to be the case. And of course, a sequel was inevitable. You don't give your name a vague subtitle unless you're intending there to be another equally indistinct one. Sure enough, now we know that it's on its way, and that it will be here in 2023 on all major consoles and PC. A Plague Tale Requiem will continue the story where the first game left off. The characters are back, the rat swarms are back, and it looks to be just as bleak as ever. Yay! We don't know too much more about Requiem so far, but considering the series is heavy on narrative and gameplay will likely be very similar to its predecessor, fans already know what to expect, and we reckon they couldn't be happier. Number 4. Metroid Dread. In the build-up to E3, fans were clamouring for news on the next Metroid Prime game. We got it too, kind of, in the form of them basically saying the new Metroid Prime game is still being made. Thankfully, in a series of bombshells that must have hit fans like a brick to the face, there was the announcement of another Metroid coming, and it would be called Dread. And it will be the first 2D Metroid in 19 years, and it will release in just 4 months' time. Please, Nintendo, a man can only take so much. The trailer gave us a brief look at the gameplay in which an indestructible robot with the mannerisms of Voldo from Soul Calibur chased Samus across some lovely environments. The pre-rendered cutscene gave off a creepy, horror-like vibe, which, when paired with the unkillable robot, is already giving me palpitations. Nintendo's Treehouse that followed the Direct had a more in-depth look. We found out that this game would finish the story arc that was seen 19 years prior, and that the gameplay would require more stealth and strategy than outright run-and-gun action. Let's just hope Nintendo handles modern Metroid better than Konami did with Contra. Number 3. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. The lengthy reveal of the new Guardians of the Galaxy game during Square Enix's conference was a tale of two halves. Due to the other recent Marvel release being the video game equivalent of a limp carrot, fans were rightfully worried about the idea of another live service debacle, so thankfully, when Square Enix finally announced that it would be single player and devoid of microtransactions, we could all breathe a collective sigh of relief. For now, anyway. In what is a rarity for a first look at a game these days, the Guardians of the Galaxy reveal took up a good chunk of Square Enix's conference. We didn't just get a lengthy trailer, but there was also a fairly long gameplay demo straight afterwards. None of that 5-second teaser and then no news for 2 years nonsense. It's coming out in October too. Well done indeed. The gameplay itself does look a bit Avengers-y with its third-person perspective and team-based combat, but that's understandable as it's likely built on very similar foundations. The thing is, it doesn't really matter if the gameplay is just fine, so long as the characters, writing and world are right. And by the looks of things so far, it's absolutely spot on. Number 2. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Exciting times for Zelda fans, as this is the first we've seen of the Breath of the Wild sequel since its ambiguous teaser at E3 2019. This time around, we got something a bit more concrete with a mix of both gameplay and story scenes. It seems like the map will be exactly the same as the first game, only with floating islands now. That's not speculation either. Back in 2019, the series producer said they wanted to, and I quote, use that world again. So expect it to be superficially the same as the first one, but with a different story and plenty of new abilities, like time-reversing portal goop, or whatever it's called. Apparently, Nintendo's biggest upcoming release isn't actually Breath of the Wild 2, it will have a different name that has yet to be revealed. I'm betting it's The Legend of Zelda Infinite, and it's about Link becoming a detective in the sky. I'm right, aren't I? You can tell me, Nintendo, I'm right. Number 1. Elden Ring. The online reaction to Elden Ring's gameplay reveal wasn't just a few happy fans, but a legion of people screaming inaudible gibberish out of sheer excitement. It was warranted too. The last we heard of Elden Ring was E3 2019, when fans got only a brief sniff of what was to come. One of the most surprising parts of the latest reveal was that it happened at Summer Game Fest rather than Bandai Namco's conference. At least, I think that technically qualified as a conference. Still, the wait for Elden Ring news is over, and in spectacular fashion too. Elden Ring's gameplay trailer showcased the game's world, enemy design, combat, and potential plot points. If you're willing to sit and decipher them for the next month anyway, just leave it to Vati, he'll sort it. Then there were all the usual FromSoft tropes: bonfires, intimidating bosses and their beautifully designed arenas, co-op summons, dragons, creepy yet creative character designs, and, of course, cathedrals, which I'm sure is so blatantly an in-joke that they even paused the music for it. Miyazaki really likes cathedrals. Surprisingly, the trailer was also accompanied by an official release date, January the 21st, 2022, ensuring the next few months for Souls fans will consist of unending anguish, which is practically the thing that people like most about the Souls games, so well done there.